that your real passion is basketball. It is not football, and it's definitely not hockey.
Right. But in the queue, we have none other than Neil Giacobbi, Associate Vice President of Public Affairs at AT&T, because there was a special initiative that happened last month. Last month, you guys did know, was National Cyberbullying Prevention Month.
Yes, yes. They had a lot of programs in our school district about that.
Yes, yes. So during last month, there was something special that Neil and his team at AT&T and the Department of Education worked on. And it was involving about 250 students across the nation, including 5 or so teams from New York, visiting New York to participate in the Cyberbullying Film Invitational competition. So really excited to welcome Neil. Neil, thanks for joining the show.
Thanks so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Same here, same here. In the studio, we have Neil, we have Dr. Michelle, we have Rich Valdez. So everyone's excited to hear about what happened last month with the initiative with AT&T and the Department of Education.
Sure. No, it was a real exciting program. It started really in the summer as schools across the country, students are coming back to resume classes. We worked with a group called the All-American High School Film Festival to tap their network of high school filmmaking classes. And as these students were returning to class, we created a curriculum for high school film instructors to engage the students to prepare for filmmaking in New York City, October 5th through the 7th, to create short films on the subject of cyberbullying. And what this curriculum did was twofold. First, it oriented the young filmmakers to the subject of cyberbullying through an immersive step of creating documentaries about cyberbullying in their lives and in their hometowns. And all these documentaries, there's 27 of them available on the YouTube channel for the All-American High School Film Festival, are really incredible, and some of them are actually very heartbreaking and involve stories of 13, 14, 15-year-olds experiencing abuse and harassment, and fortunately living to tell about it on camera. And that was really the first step in the filmmaking process. The second was creating a script and a story on cyberbullying for a narrative story that was shot and produced in New York City. It was made possible with the assistance of Commissioner Julie Menon in the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment, who helped secure permits and talent for these amazing filmmakers. There were 27 teams who descended on the city in October 5th, and in 3 amazingly short days, they shot these narrative films, edited them in a production suite that AT&T produced, and submitted them by a 4 p.m. deadline on Friday the 9th. And these two, like the documentaries, are available on the Film Festival's YouTube channel. Some of them are based on true stories. Some of them were scripted, these stories told from scratch. And while all the students were in town, I had the privilege of interviewing them on camera to really learn about their experiences with cyberbullying and how, as advocate filmmakers, they created these stories and what they hoped to achieve with them. So it was a real eye-opening experience for me. I'm a parent of 3 children. My oldest is 12. I've got an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. And so I'm very keyed into this very personally. And on behalf of my company, AT&T, this is a very important issue for us. And so this was really a qualitative element to our learning as a company about cyberbullying. The quantitative piece was a survey that we did, a poll of teenagers we conducted in the spring with their parents' permission, and really told an incredible story about cyberbullying and how negative the online world is for adolescents and teens. So these two pieces together really helped us understand what young people are going through as they navigate this online world.
So this is Dr. Reed. Congratulations on a very successful program. So what is the next step, though?
Well, the next step for the filmmaking is to edit these films into a longer format. I just returned last week from a road show that I did in upstate New York with my colleagues and with our partner on the project, the Tyler Clementi Foundation. Some of you know the tragedy of Tyler Clementi. He took his life by suicide in 2010. It was one of the first documented suicides that resulted from technology and cyberbullying. His mother, Jane Clementi, accompanied me and my colleagues across upstate New York in a media tour to debut and to test a long-form version of a film for high school assemblies that we shared with audiences all across upstate New York, and it strung together several of the films that our teen filmmakers created in New York, and it's really the first stop for these films. The next is in partnership with the New York City Department of Education to create another version of this long-form film intended for adult audiences and really designed for parents to really open their eyes and understand what's going on social media.
Wow, that would be really great. I think because that's something that parents don't necessarily think about these days until something tragically happens. And then once it happens, they think about it and then they go back to sleep.
Yeah.
So,
and this is what our survey proved out. You know, when we did our poll of New York City teens, we also surveyed the parents. And 78% of the parents said they talked to their teens about online safety. But the reason why we also talk to the teens is because the teens, on the other hand, say that the parents really aren't talking to them at all.
Right.
And you believe the teens, not the parents?
Right. Well, we're all ears. We're listening to everyone all at once.
No, that's true. That's very true.
So, Neil, just a quick question. Any tools or additional technologies that AT&T is working on to maybe as a next phase to hand out for like the parents? Or, I mean, this is definitely great first steps. I just want to know, after you put together, the short length films into, let's say, one or two longer films, what are going to be some takeaways for the parents?
Well, really the first takeaway for parents is to really become fluent in social media. And that's what we hope to accomplish with Chancellor of the City Schools in New York, is to really bridge this gap, like I'd mentioned, between the parents and the teens. Parents have got to wake up and really begin to understand the social media environment and what it means. You know, one of the things that we learned when we had these filmmakers in New York City, these teenagers, some as young as 13 years old, when we did these interviews, we heard time and again teenagers say, that the teachers and our parents, they tell us if you want to stop cyberbullying, just to shut your laptop or to turn off your phone. And really, that's not good advice, because you could turn off your phone, but the cyberbullying, the abuse, and even just the teasing continues even if you're not there to take it in. The comments live on in the comment section of Instagram and these posts. And so the first step is really for parents to take a step back and recognize, look, social media today and the way teens take it in has the same magnitude as if we're all sitting around the TV watching MTV. I grew up in the 80s, and we had Kurt Loder, and we only had a few channels on my TV at home. And it would be as if Kurt Loder came out and criticized the teen for being awkward, or criticized the teen for being sexual, for the way they dressed or being unathletic. That's how it feels when a young person is targeted for abuse and teasing on social media. It's really the same thing. It would be unfathomable when I was a kid for that to happen, for a personality on screen to do that. Because that's really the magnitude and the way that the teenagers feel about it, because that is their media environment. And the difference between then and now is that all the people in their community, and really anybody around the world, can jump in and create a cyber mob and join in that criticism. And we know the consequences. Worst case scenario, you have a young person like Tyler Clementi take his life. But most often it's depression, decline in grades. There could even be substance abuse. cutting can happen. That's very common among our adolescents and preteens. And that's just a consequence of this humiliation that happens online, where everyone just sort of piles on, and the young person feels alone and isolated and unable to really reach out for the support that's available for them because they're just so humiliated and embarrassed. So adults really need to take a step back and recognize that the social media landscape is really no different than the entertainment landscape, except it's right there in their hand, and it's 24/7, and it goes on all through the night. So that's the first step, and that's why we really want to talk to parents first, and to close the gap between parents and educators. Because you've got teachers and guidance counselors, vice principals on the front line dealing with this in their schools, and oftentimes they reach out to the parents, and they don't really want to know anything about it. That's something that we learned last week in upstate New York is that the teachers and the principals who we spoke with say that a lot of times the parents they don't want to hear about it. They don't believe it. Yet, as our poll in New York City proved out, 86% of this interaction on social media, it's happening under the parents' roof. It's happening at home. And so parents may have a Facebook experience. There's not a lot of adolescents or teens who are on Facebook anymore. They're someplace else. And what we also learned from our poll is the experience of parents is overwhelmingly positive on social media and Facebook primarily. But what they don't experience is Yik Yak, Ask FM. A lot of parents aren't on Instagram, and they're not exposed to the negativity that is an everyday and every minute part of a young person's experience on the internet. And so we got to close that gap. And what we hope to do is to use these teen-made films to do that, to really give the parents and adults an insight into the minute-by-minute experience of a young person who is under attack, and these films do it. And there are some stunning, heartbreaking. You're going to cry if you watch a few of them. Some of them are really, really jarring. How these teenagers took this experience, some of them had in their own lives, and put it on film. You could see up close what it's like to have some foolish behavior, something they shouldn't have done, get broadcast to the school. And what it's like to get taken down fast by a cyber mob, and what that looks like up close and personal. It's really painful, and it was hard to watch. Wow. But we need adults to see that, to wake up and understand that by giving their kids a phone with all this social media access, they've got some responsibility, and they need to understand. And so that's really the first step. That's the first tool. It's just to wake up and understand.
Gotcha, Neil. We want to thank you for taking a few minutes out of your evening and sharing this initiative with us on Late Night Parents. Hey, the best ways to get in contact, one per se you, but let's say we have any listeners tonight that want to hear more about this initiative with AT&T and Department of Education.
I think the first thing, if you want to reach me personally, you could find me on Twitter. You guys followed me and said I followed you back. You could find me on Neil Giacobbi at Twitter. That's my handle. Just hit me up with a direct message, or just post something on my stream, and I'll respond to that right away. We're eager to go out and meet with parents and to bring this program right into the schools.
Wow.
Just you can find me there, and that's the first step.
Neil, we want to thank you so much for working with us this evening and talking with us, and happy Thanksgiving to you.
Thank you. You too. It's really a pleasure to be here.
Thanks again.
Thank you, Neil.
So that was pretty interesting.
Very. You do hear about the gap between the parents who just hand the phone over to their kids. It's like, here's your phone. Browse the web all day, all night. Do whatever you're going to do with it that I'm not going to know about. And they have no idea what's going on in the background.
Knock yourself out. I got to tell you, wow. Neil is going to be someone I definitely want to have a long-form discussion with, so we can dig a little bit deeper into this, because a program like that, I mean, outside of a PR rep reaching out, I didn't hear anything about this.
Right.